In Module 2, we will cover how to search for a member in the database and provide you with a general overview of the contents of a member's record. Let us begin. To search for a member in the Active SOC Database, start by logging into the database as outlined in Module 1. To search for an athlete, coach, or volunteer, we will use the Contact Member Navigator, which can be accessed from two spots on the homepage. You can either click on the blue tab labeled Contact Member Navigator, which is found along the top of your screen here, or you can click on the Contact Member Navigator link here. Both will bring you to the same page. This is the first section in the Contact Member Navigator module. On the left contains the search or filter fields used to find the member's record. There are three different types of fields. Data fields, which allow you to type in a value to filter or search on. For example, the field's first name or last name. Another type of field are checkboxes. This can include the member's role. And finally, there are drop-down filters. These filters present a list of the possible values in the field and allow you to select one of those values. An example of this type of field would be the member's region. Before we begin searching for a record, there are some important things to keep in mind when looking for a member in the database. Members can be searched by any of the fields we see on the screen. What's important to note is that if you don't put in any search criteria, the database will assume that you wanted to see all of the records that you had access to. For example, if you search for the first name Laura, the database would return a maximum of 100 records, all of which would be members with the first name Laura. If there are more than 100 results in a search request, you will receive an alert and a recommendation to provide more specific information to narrow your search. With this in mind, the more information you specify in your search criteria, the fewer and more specific your results will be. In order to narrow the search, we can include more specific criteria, such as the last name Stewart, or the member's role, let's say a volunteer. Because of database limitations, we would not recommend that club-level volunteers use role as a limiting factor. However, selecting region, community, or sport would be preferable. It's also important to note that in the database, a distinction is made between volunteers who are coaches and volunteers who perform other roles, such as volunteers or committee members. Coaches require a specific set of data on their qualifications. If they also volunteer in another capacity, that information is stored under the volunteer sections. With this understood, let us try our first search. Begin by entering any of the information that you know of the member that you are searching for. It is vitally important that when editing or searching a member's record, that the correct record is being accessed. If you know the member's contact ID number, this is often the fastest and most accurate method of searching, as it's unique to every individual in the database, and therefore is the quickest and most foolproof way to ensure that you're viewing the correct record. You can enter member ID number directly in this box, and click Search to go directly into that record. If you do not know the member ID number, then it is necessary to conduct a more extensive search to help you find the correct record. To do so, fill in the fields by which you want to search. If you are unsure of what one of the fields is asking for, click on the question mark above it, which will provide you a more detailed instruction. Once you have filled in the necessary search fields, click the search button at the bottom of the page, or hit Enter. Once you have performed a search, on the right-hand side will appear all of the search results. If you click on one of the results, a summary of that member's information will appear below. If you don't have the database rights to view this information, the following message will be displayed. Going back to the member summary, it's an easy way to find general information about a member without having to open the full record. The summary contains general information about the member, like gender, contacts, and associated clubs and responsibilities. To get a more detailed report on that member, click on the Contact ID name link. In a new window, the member's full record will pop up. When you perform a search, if there is only one entry returned in the results, or if you enter the contact ID directly, the record will automatically open without you requiring to click on the Contact ID name link, depending on the pop-up settings of your browser for this website. I'd like to show you a few tricks for improving your searches within the database. It's important to note that when filling in any of the search fields, you can use the % symbol as a wildcard if not all of the information is known. For example, if you type the name Donald in the last name field, the database will search through all records including McDonald, Donald, and Donaldson. If you key in the % symbol before the name, you will have the following results: McDonald and Donald. In this case, the % symbol acts as an unknown prefix. If you key in the % symbol after the name, you will have the following results: Donald and Donaldson. In this case, the % symbol acts as an unknown suffix. Moving on. Once you've located a record, we are now going to look at what the membership record includes and what is contained on the membership screen. There are several key types of membership records that are tracked by the database, including athletes, coaches, volunteers, sponsors, and staff. For the purposes of this training video, we will be focusing on athletes, coaches, and volunteers. Once in a membership record, direct your attention to the top left, where you will see 4 icons. The first icon is the print screen button. This will allow you to print the entire profile of the member's record. The next icon is the Adobe File button. By clicking on this, you will save a copy of the entire record into Adobe Acrobat file. Now a quick overview of the member's record. The first section of the record gives a general overview of the member's information. Here you will find the member's ID, which as mentioned before is unique to every individual in the database. You can look up when this individual joined Special Olympics, how long they've been a member, or if they are still associated with the organization. This will be indicated by the status field. Now we will go over the different types of statuses. The active status indicates that the member is currently in a program with no restrictions. Active conditional can either indicate the member is returning from suspension and must meet assigned conditions in order to participate in the program, or that the member simply lacks information in regards to the record, for example, a police reference check. Inactive restricted indicates that the member is not allowed to participate in any Special Olympics program. Inactive suspended indicates that the member is not allowed to participate for a particular period of time. Inactive terminated would indicate that the member has been permanently removed from the program. And finally, inactive simply means that the member has chosen to stop participating in the program. If a member leaves Special Olympics and then returns, and if their overall status is re-updated to active or active conditional, the field Reason Left, which is found under the Member Profile heading, will automatically be cleared. It's also important to note that the Date Departed field means that the member is deceased. This section also contains the member's full name and their roles in the organization, whether they're an athlete, coach, volunteer, sponsor, or staff. Depending on which roles are checked, a subsection will be added to the record to enter additional specific data in accordance to that role. For example, if you check off the role Coach, a new section will appear on the record called Coach Information. If a member is an athlete, the fields applying to the basic information, the athlete information, and security information will be displayed to users with permission to view that information. The coach or volunteer sections will be hidden because they are not applicable to that member. That being said, the basic information fields at the top of the record are the sections that apply to all contact members, regardless of their role. These sections include the name, address, phone numbers, status, and emergency contacts. The next section on a member's record is the member profile. Here is where you will find the member's preferred language and information in regards to first aid and CPR training and police record checks. If the member is in a position that requires a police reference check, this box will be checked. If that member has completed a police reference check and has submitted it to Special Olympics, the On File box will be checked. The date that the record has been submitted will appear under the Check Completed On field. Below you will notice a Member's Notes section. Here is where you can insert additional information about the member that has not already been added within their record. It's important to note that confidential information should not be inserted in this field. Any additional confidential information should be submitted to your district developer or the provincial office, who can place it in a secured field that would not be publicly shown. If you are viewing a coach's record, the section titled Coach Information contains coaching qualifications and club affiliations. If you are viewing a volunteer's record, the volunteer information section contains non-coaching volunteer roles in clubs, communities, regions, and chapters. This section allows multiple records to be added so that more than one time period, interest, or skill can be recorded for a member. Here you will see a list of all possible volunteer positions, the volunteer's availability, interests, and skills. The sections Volunteer Interest, Volunteer Skills, and Volunteer Availability are not generally used by Special Olympics Ontario. For your information, however, the Volunteer Interest section refers to the area of interest of a potential or current volunteer, for example, whether they want to volunteer or assist in a fundraising event. These interests can be used to look up for a volunteer who might be willing or able to take on a specific volunteer role. Volunteer skills refers to verifiable skills that the volunteer has that they are willing to use in their Special Olympics capacity. For example, someone might be interested in fundraising, but has no skills or experience in that area. Their interest would be noted, but no skill. This provides a clear picture of how each volunteer can best assist the organization. An athlete's record contains information pertaining specifically to athletes, including their club affiliations. Please remember that as a general note, and with the exception of atlantoaxial instability information, which is outlined here, we do not generally keep track of athlete medical information, such as prescriptions and diagnosis, within the database. From a risk management perspective, this information can change frequently, and it's important that this information is tracked and stored closer to the athlete with each community and coach and kept up to date on a regular basis. This completes your training for Module 2. You will be required to complete a short quiz within the Learning Management System before proceeding to Module 3.